The Dallas Mavericks suffered their most embarrassing loss of the season after dropping to the Sacramento Kings 121-107. This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. The Dallas Mavericks have lost their last two games by a combined 22 points after they allowed Julius Randle and the New York Knicks to walk into the American Airlines Center, where Julius Randle dropped 44. Then you back it up by allowing De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings. He scores 30 in this game, gets another 24 from Harrison Barnes. And the team with the worst defensive rating in all of the NBA walks into your building on a 9-game losing streak and beats you and sends you now to 0-2 on a 5-game homestand, where you have the second easiest schedule in the final 16 games, and you lose in a most embarrassing fashion to the Sacramento Kings. Luka Doncic scored 28 of his 37 points in the second half, but it was too little, too late. He also picked up his 12th technical foul of the season, continuing to complain to referees about calls that he did or did not get. Here's Luka Doncic after the game, where I asked him about what this team has to do from a soul-searching standpoint to figure out how to improve collectively and individually, followed up by why this team may be lacking the kind of energy needed to win these games. Here's what Luka Doncic had to say.
Luka, Rick talked about this team has done some soul-searching over the last 5 days. From your perspective, what does that look like from an individual standpoint going forward so this team can continue to improve not only individually but collectively?
Just like I said, we got to play harder and bring more energy. That's the thing for us now.
Tim?
Luka, why is energy an issue at this point?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
How do you fix that? How do you create energy when a team is in this kind of a funk that you guys are trying to fight out of right now?
I don't know, but all I know is we got to start with me. I got to do way better, keeping guys motivated, and it starts with me,
So Luka Doncic saying, I don't know why there's no energy. That's concerning, because you should have the energy to beat a team who is on a 9-game losing streak, the worst defensive rating in all of the NBA. They played, the Kings did, with the kind of desperation that the Mavericks should have played with, knowing the dogfight that they are in the Western Conference Standings, where right now they only sit a half game up on the Memphis Grizzlies after they dump trucked the Milwaukee Bucks this past weekend. So now a team that's 30-26 this year, 13-14 at home, over its last 7 games, 25th in the NBA in defensive rating. This Mavericks team continues to be pathetic when it comes to trailing after the first quarter. They dropped to 11-23 when trailing after the first quarter of this season. The story of this season can be told about how this team comes out in first quarters and whether or not they play with the kind of energy and intensity that other teams are playing with when they play them night in and night out. Rick Carlisle talked about the idea that teams are delivering their best punch to the Dallas Mavericks, and they are not responding in the ways that they need to, especially for a team that had the high expectations coming into this season. Now the Mavericks, who have the second easiest schedule, where their combined opponents' winning percentage for the final 16 games is .441, juxtapose that by a team in the Portland Trail Blazers, who have also lost 5 out of their last 7 games. They have the 4th toughest schedule in the NBA. So theoretically, you would think a Mavericks team would take advantage of the easy schedule that they have and then couple that with what the Portland Trail Blazers are dealing with in their tough schedule and try and make a move up the Western Conference standings to get out of the dreaded 7th spot that they are currently in right now. But instead, no. They allow the Sacramento Kings in the second and fourth quarters combined to go 28 of 39, shoot 72% from the field, go 9 of 9 from the three-point line, and score 79 points in those 2 quarters combined, including a second quarter where the Sacramento Kings scored 45 points alone and outscored the Dallas Mavericks 45-30. A completely inexcusable performance from Kristaps Porzingis, who went 3 of 13 in this game. The only players who seemed like they played with the kind of heart for all 4 quarters were Jalen Brunson, who went 8 of 10 from the field, Dorian Finney-Smith, who played a terrific game on the offensive end, and Luka Doncic in the second half. Maxi Kleber defensively was awful in this game. Also, Kristaps Porzingis, as we mentioned, went 3 of 13. Tim Hardaway Jr., only a couple of field goals made in this game. The collective pathetic effort of the Mavericks in this game and what you saw against the New York Knicks is completely inexcusable for a team that is now 13 and 14 at home this year, where ironically they are 17 and 12 on the road. It's amazing that this team has been as poor at home, but that much better on the road. Yes, I know they punted away games against the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Also, when you lose games on the road against the Houston Rockets and you come back home and you allow DeMar DeRozan to score 27 out of 33 points in the second half, then you allow Julius Randle to walk into your building and drop 44 on you in his homecoming. And then to top it all off, you allow De'Aaron Fox to drop 30. You allow former Dallas Maverick Harrison Barnes to walk in to score 24 points. You allow some dude named Terrence Davis to walk in to go perfect from the three-point line, go 5 of 5. And a team in the Mavericks that did not play with the kind of desperation that a team in the Sacramento Kings did with nothing to play for continues to find themselves in a dogfight when they don't necessarily have to do so. They're in a current 5-game homestand where they still have games against the Detroit Pistons and 2 against the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, what's interesting about the Lakers games is that Anthony Davis could be on his way back in one of those 2 games, either on that Thursday or that Saturday. That may not matter right now because the team and the Mavericks need to find themselves beating a terrible Detroit Pistons team before worrying about anything that has to do with Los Angeles and the potential return of Anthony Davis. I asked Dorian Finney-Smith after the game, why is it that this team responding when teams punch them in the mouth when it comes to the first quarters of these games? Here's what Dorian Finney-Smith had to say.
Dorian, Rick talked about you guys are getting every team's best punch every night. How do you match the intensity knowing that teams are coming in looking to deliver that blow to you guys, especially in the first quarter, and matching that intensity going forward?
We just gotta play with some, inspiration, man. It's an honor to be here. That's what I do. I just try to play thankful. Thankful to be out there, and that's all we gotta do. You just gotta go out there and play harder, and stop taking plays off. And we can compete with anybody. We got the talent. It's just energy.
So Dorian Finney-Smith saying, look, we all have to collectively take a look in the mirror. And honestly, that is the truth. For a team now that is 2-5 in their last 7 games, 25th in the NBA in defensive rating, you allow a Sacramento Kings team to come into your building, shoot nearly 50% from the field, but more importantly, they outplayed you, they out-hustled you, and they were more desperate than you from the jump. This team now, the Mavericks, finds themselves 11 and 23 at the end of first quarters when they are trailing. That is pathetic. And a team now that sits 13 and 14 at home cannot find themselves playing with the kind of energy necessary that is needed to give themselves an opportunity to move up in the Western Conference standings. This isn't about X's and O's. This isn't about defensive and offensive rating and all the advanced numbers that you want to see. This is simply about the desire and effort to beat teams that you're better than. The Dallas Mavericks find themselves this season playing down to their competition over and over and over. You can look at the examples against the Houston Rockets on the road, against the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road. Then you allow the San Antonio Spurs in recent days to walk into your building and outplay you in the fourth quarter, making big shots down the stretch. Then you allow a Julius Randle to walk in to score the first 10 points of that game and go off for 44 and embarrass you in your own building. And then you allow former Dallas Maverick Harrison Barnes to play one of his best games of the season, scoring 24 points. You had no defensive answer for De'Aaron Fox in a team that has the worst, literally the worst defensive rating in all of the NBA and NBA history, only holds you to 107 points. The Mavericks in their last 2 games have lost these 2 games by a combined 22 points to the Knicks and to the Sacramento Kings. All of that to say, The Mavericks need to look themselves in the mirror and find a measure of resolve that, one, allows them to compete from the very outset of games, but more importantly, what is going on with Kristaps Porzingis? He goes 3 of 13 in this game, allows Hassan Whiteside to get off on him, dominating inside the paint, especially in the first quarter. The lackadaisical and Ole defense that Kristaps Porzingis played in this game was absolutely inexcusable. You saw Rick Carlisle call a timeout within the first minute and 51 seconds of this game because of the lackadaisical effort that it appeared the Mavericks were putting out on the floor. And guess what? That carried over for most of this game. Yeah, they went on a 15-2 run in the third quarter to try and get themselves back into the game, but by then it was too little too late. The Sacramento Kings outplayed you, outshot you, and more importantly, were more desperate than you. That should never be the case when a team is coming in on a 9-game losing streak in your own building and you have as much to play for as the Dallas Mavericks do. And they have a ton to play for given what their schedule is during these final 16 games. They have 3 games left at home against the Detroit Pistons, 2 against the Lakers before they go on the road to take on the Sacramento Kings team that just put the beat down on them inside the American Airlines Center. So I don't know what this team needs to do, but what they need to do is start defending the way that they did when they went 4-1 on their road trip. Also, a team that at one point in a previous 15-game stretch was a top 5 defensive rating team in the NBA. A team in its last 7 games, by the way, that's a -6 rating when it comes to the difference between defensive rating and offensive rating. As I mentioned, 25th in the NBA during that 7-game span in terms of defensive rating. So all in all, a Mavericks team that, yes, in this offseason will need to do some retooling and some potential overhauling. Maybe in the immediate change some lineups with maybe getting Josh Richardson out of the lineup and tweaking some rotational things, because right now the way that they're playing, the inconsistency that they're playing with, this doesn't bode well going forward for a team that needs to get out of that dreaded 7 spot. And if they don't, and as the way it currently sits right now, they will play the Memphis Grizzlies in the 7-8 game. The San Antonio Spurs and the Golden State Warriors will play in the 9-10 game. Let's just say, for example, that the Mavericks lose that 7-8 game, which locks Memphis into the 7th seed. And then the Golden State Warriors beat the San Antonio Spurs to win that 9-10 game, setting up a matchup between the Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. Let me tell you what you don't want to see. You don't want to see Stephen Curry with 1 game on the line to get you into the playoffs, because the way he's shooting the ball right now, he could drop 50 on you at any point. And you saw what he's already done once to the Dallas Mavericks inside the American Airlines Center. That's not the problem that you want. But right now, the Dallas Mavericks are playing an embarrassing brand of basketball, and it is difficult and awful to watch. We'll see if they can pull themselves out of this rut, because if they don't, not only is this play-in tournament thing not going to be a thing, but they're going to have to do some real serious off-season retooling to try and get this team back to where they need to be, because they are regressing right now. And that shouldn't be the case when you had an opportunity to go to the playoffs last year and to build on that, because they're not handling expectations well. And that is most concerning about these Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks play on Wednesday against the Detroit Pistons. We'll see if they can find themselves getting out of this little 2-game losing streak that they're in. Losers of 5 of their last 7. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. You can also find me on 105.3 The Fan. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. It's been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.